On November 8th, it was announced that Alex Mighten, a young winger playing in the championship for Nottingham Forest, will be now switching allegiances from the youth ranks of England to the United States men's national team. I know what you're all thinking. With the depth we have at the winger position, does this guy have a shot to actually play? And how good is he really? Let's find out. What's up, guys? My name is Brian McDonough, and welcome to another episode of State of Soccer. If it's your first time joining this channel, then welcome. On this channel, we talk about all things U.S. soccer, domestic and abroad. So make sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you enjoy hearing all about the landscape of soccer in this country. And on today's episode, we're going to be exploring a youth player that plays across the pond in England for Nottingham Forest in the championship. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different because joining me, I have Lee Clark, who's a writer for Nottingham Forest News based out of Nottinghamshire in the UK. On this episode, we're going to be talking all about Alex Mighten, his potential, if he has a shot to play for the USMNT, his role with Nottingham Forest, and ultimately what type of player Greg Berhalter can expect. And guys, make sure to definitely stay tuned for the full duration of the interview, because we'll also be talking about Ethan Horvath and getting the most up-to-date information on Ethan. So with that, make sure to subscribe and let's get started.
What's up, guys? It's State of Soccer. Joining you guys from a park here out on the road, but I have a really special guest today. His name is Lee Clark, joining us from Nottingham. And today we're going to be discussing Alex Mighten, who's looking to commit to the USMNT. Lee, how's it going, man?
Yeah, all good. How are you?
Pretty good, Lee. Thanks for joining me at such short notice.
No problem.
So why don't you start by introducing yourself and what you do for Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, so my name's Lee Clark, as you've kindly introduced me. I run a Nottingham Forest website called Nottingham Forest News, aptly named. Basically, by the fans, for the fans. That's probably the best way we can describe what we do. Lots of different pieces than you'd typically read from everyone on the internet. So yeah, just kind of being a fan soundboard that people can come to on Twitter. At Seat Pitch is our Twitter handle if you want to follow us. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do in a nutshell.
Greatly. So, today I do want to talk about Alex Mighten. So if you've heard, he's a talented young player, obviously for Nottingham Forest, potentially committing to the U.S. men's national team. In the past, the U.S. has grabbed the likes of Yunus Musa, now Alex Mighten, another English player, dual national. Can you tell me a little bit about his capabilities as a player and what type of player the U.S. is landing here?
Yeah, so he's clearly very young, still a teenager. So there's lots of potential, but I suppose what you could say at the moment is that he's still in the process of unlocking his full potential, which is expected at his age. So he typically plays out wide. At the minute, we're kind of playing a system where our manager likes his wide players to kind of drop when we've got the ball, drop inside and act as number 10s just behind the striker. So it's a bit of a challenge for Mighten to kind of adapt his game, which, as you can imagine, as a youngster, it's not always. I guess what you could. For want of someone that you guys can relate to, a bit like our manager wants to play like Pulisic at Chelsea. So
okay,
he will typically play. He's naturally a winger, but I think what he probably does at Chelsea is he kind of, when they've got the ball, he drops inside, links up with the striker, and that's what our manager wants to do at the moment. So whereas Mighten's come through the ranks, he's always been a winger. So at the minute when he does play, he's kind of got to get used to a different role. But he's got an abundance of pace. He's got loads of pace. That is his main attribute by an absolute distance. But yeah, he's very exciting, very raw at the minute. But yeah, he's got pace to burn, and that is the most exciting aspect of him.
I guess you could say because the U.S. men's national team in particular is still, fresh on the scene as far as, potentially now with the capabilities of competing with some of the world's best teams. Still very young, a lot of raw talent. But grabbing the likes of Alex Mighten from in England, a dual national, and grabbing Yunus Musa. Were there plans from Gareth Southgate to kind of implement Mighten in the future, or was he not really on the radar? I know there's so much talent, of course, in the English system. So,
yeah, I think given the kind of the meteoric rise that England have kind of gone from being real bottle jobs to actually looking to show some promise, actually reaching latter stages of tournaments. I know that some of our enemies will still say we're bottle jobs because we've not actually got over the line yet. But I think looking at where we were after we crashed out of the Euros to Iceland, I don't think if you'd have offered any English person a semi-final and of a World Cup and a final of the Euros, they'd have probably snapped your hand off, to be fair. So I think we are on the up, and I think that is down to having such a plethora of talent coming through. So I think although Mighten had been called up I think he's played for pretty much every youth level now, below the under-21. So that was probably going to be his next step. But yeah, I don't think he'd probably. I mean, you could always say that. I think Southgate is one of these guys that's got his finger on the pulse with the younger squad, so he probably does know who he is. But I don't think there was any real. Just because he's not really a regular at Forest yet, he's kind of still a bit of an unknown quantity. I think he's probably some way off the England radar, and that's probably why he's made the decision to switch to the States.
Now, Alex Mighten out wide, the United States men's national team, especially on that right wing, you could argue that, Timothy Weah is a good solution for us that we have. We have Brendan Aronson, we have Giovanni Reina. So it's not like there's no one. And all three players play in Europe in the Bundesliga, Ligue 1, and the Austrian Bundesliga. So, there still is some depth. In order for him to get some playing time, I would say he would need to be prolific in the final third. What would you say his best aspects are? Because that's something that we're missing on that end.
It's not really. I mean, it's difficult for him because, to be honest, he's probably played over 50 times for us, but a lot of them have been from the bench. So he is very much an impact substitute at the moment. I think last season was difficult because obviously there's no fans in the stadium. And one thing that his game does do is excite. It gets supporters off their seats. And there was a game this season we played away at Barnsley. We were losing. We equalised, went 1-1. Then we put Mighten on. And within, 10 minutes of him being on the pitch, we were winning 3-1. So he can change games in the blink of an eye. But at the minute, it's just a little bit too inconsistent with him. Some games he'll come on and do something, but then others he'll come on and perhaps, you've barely even noticed he's come on the pitch. So I think as a young lad, you've got to expect that. But I think what I would say is certainly if he does, switch his allegiance and go and play for the States, he'll be around some really good players there. So in theory, that can only help him going away and learning from these players. And hopefully it can make him a better player for Forest as well.
That's the thing. The U.S. is playing right now. Greg Berhalter has a conventional 4-3-3. Is England typically plays a little bit more defensive? Am I wrong in stating that? Sometimes even a 5 in the back, which doesn't really benefit a Mighten.
Well, Forest are at the minute. We're kind of playing with 3 centre backs and 2 wing backs. So I suppose you can kind of call it 5 at the back out of possession, but 3 at the back in possession. So it's a little bit of what I call a modern day strategy that we're playing at the moment. So yeah, I guess you could say a 4-3-3 probably would suit Mighten a little bit more because he's not going to have to, as much as you always like your wide players to get back and help out, what you want them doing is being straight on the front foot. And I think if the States are planning on kind of playing any games on the counter, then Mighten would be absolutely perfect for that because, like I say, get him the ball with, 5 or 10 yards on his man, and he's going to be turning them in knots before. There has been some situations this season where some of his trickery, and even last season as well, some of his trickery, it's just been he's kind of got no room 1 minute, and then the next minute everyone's been left for dead, and he's in on goal sort of thing. So there's definitely signs of. It's difficult because he's probably not played in too many formations during his career, I guess. But yeah, certainly a 4-3-3 does look as though it would suit Mighten's strengths.
Very cool. No, and that's ultimately what the U.S. needs right now is a little bit more depth at that position. The opportunity for someone to come in maybe as a super sub late in the match to shake things up. and it seems like that could be Alex Mighten. So I'd expect the U.S. to kind of integrate him in future friendlies, international friendlies where it isn't MLS-based players, more European-based players or camps. One more question. I have two more questions, actually. From a character standpoint, from a teammate aspect, the U.S. is looking to build. They have a young squad. It's very, very important with any squad going into the future to have players that you can build upon that are, great attitude, great character. How is he off the pitch as well? Have you heard good things?
Yeah, it does. I think our manager Steve Cooper at the moment, he's very big on having good personalities in the dressing room.
Yeah.
So I don't think. I mean, he's been included in every single squad under our new manager. So I don't think he would be that sort of close to the starting 11 if he wasn't a good character. He always seems to. One thing I do like about him is he's always got a smile on his face. He's one of these players that I always think. I think in the modern day era, you get a lot of players who just look like they can't really be bothered. They're on good money. They're not really bothered. They'll just turn up, get the money, play some football, happy days. But Mighten does seem as though he's one of those sort of players that gets out of bed every morning and enjoys his profession.
Very cool. And, one more player that's obviously at Nottingham Forrest is Ethan Horvath. We have the battle going on amongst goalies with, Zach Steffen and Matt Turner. Ethan Horvath this past summer bailed the USMNT national team out of a potential loss in a Nations League final against Mexico. He was superb in that match, coming in as a sub late with the Zach Steffen's injury. He hasn't been getting playing time since making the move to Nottingham, it seems. What's going on with Ethan?
Well, I think he probably knew the landscape when he signed for us. Our number one goalkeeper is firmly established, Brice Samba.
Sure.
So the one thing we did lack was some proper competition for him. So I think we looked at his background and thought, yeah, he's come from Club Brugge, didn't play much there either, but clearly top European side. This is going to be the proper competition that we need. So I think he knew that would be the case coming in. About 6 games into the season, our goalkeeper had dropped a few high-profile errors. So Horvath got his chance. Sadly, he didn't cover himself in glory in the first league game that he played. He did play twice in the cup as well, actually, and was pretty good in both of those. He did have some really good moments in both of those games. But his first league start, he miscontrolled a ball. One of the defenders back passed him the ball, and he took a heavy touch. The strikers nipped in and made it 2-0. So it wasn't the ideal debut for him. But what I would say is you can't really judge a goalkeeper on one mistake, especially that was the last game under our manager who was massively under pressure as well. So
sure.
I think it'll be good to see what he's like now that the morale in the dressing room looks to have lifted. Everyone looks to be playing a lot better than they were at the start of the season under the new manager. So yeah, it'd be nice to see him again. But it's just frustrating for him, I guess, that the number one goalkeeper has proper booked up his ideas and is actually showcasing why he's number one now. So I guess for a little while longer, he's going to have to remain patient.
And that's the thing with, playing for the national team, of course, first team minutes at the club level is typically a must. Unless you're Zach Steffen, who potentially, being at Man City as a backup to Ederson, get some playing time for the USMNT, possibly a starter. Moving forward with Nottingham Forest, do you think these guys could ultimately cement themselves as starters in the next couple of seasons, either Alex Mighten or Ethan Horvath?
Yeah, I think Mighten definitely can. I mean, we've got a pretty good track record with young players. I mean, he's a very similar sort of player, I guess, to Brennan Johnson, who he went out on loan last season and he was brilliant in the league below. So I guess what might help Mighten for his development is to maybe go on a similar sort of loan away from the club,
sure.
just to play a little more men's football, a little more first team football, and just get a feel for playing 90 minutes every week, because that's the sort of thing that he's not used to as well at the moment. So I think Mighten in the next 2 or 3 years will definitely be. He's signed a long-term contract at Forest, so I think he's earmarked as one for the future. I guess with Horvath, it's a little bit different because he's not on such a long contract. So I think it's always tricky for goalkeepers, because if you've got an established first choice goalkeeper, it's always going to be challenging to get regular game time. So I guess he will be, relying on a little bit of luck, either a suspension or a pretty serious injury so that he gets a run of games, because we all know as a goalkeeper, it's never easy when you sat there on the bench all season. It might be 20 games in and then you finally get called upon. It can be really kind of tricky to get up to speed quite quickly in such a demanding position. So it's a difficult one with Horvath. I'd love to see him get a bit more game time, but I guess it's out of his hands a little bit there.
Sure. And then last question, Nottingham Forrest obviously has an incredible history, European success-wise, way back in the past. But that being said, where they're at right now, 13th in the standing. Last year, I believe they finished 17th in the standings. I think when Ethan Horvath moved over to a championship squad, the hopes would, of course, American fans are thinking, potential Premier League status at some point in time. Nottingham Forest being 13th in the table right now, where do you see them ending this year? It looks like the middle of the table is pretty stacked. How's Nottingham doing this season so far?
Well, it's the $1 million question. I guess the nature of the beast with the Championship is that it's probably one of the only leagues in the world where any given week the team top of the league can lose to the team at the bottom of the league. So sure, it's difficult. What I do think works in our favour is that the momentum's with us a little bit. We've had our little blip at the start of the season. We've changed our manager, and the new one's come in and he's getting results. Under him, we're averaging 2 points a game. And typically they say if you average 2 points a game over kind of 30, 35 games, then you're going to get in the playoffs. So we're not quite dreaming of that just yet. But I think under the new manager, there is optimism that we are on the up. We're only 4 points off the playoffs now. And after this international break, there's kind of 9 or 10 games between now and New Year's Day. So there's lots of points there. And I think if we keep playing as we are, by the time Santa's bringing his gifts down the chimney, we might be looking a lot more closer to the playoff picture than we are now. So hopefully we can make them. But again, it's far too early days given the nature of the beast in our league.
Well, Lee, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, and take good care of Alex and Ethan over there. Best of
luck.
Yeah,
will do.
All right, thank you so much.